I'm halfway through being 52 and on my way to 53. And I used to get frustrated with old people because there's a certain point in life where you draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not changing anymore. This week, I drew that line in the sand when I was trying to pay the IRS our taxes, and not just a quarter earlier we had logged in one way, the government had changed the way they wanted us to log in. I was very frustrated that night. So I'm not quite having driven the line in the sand, but I'm getting closer. We are living, my generation, Gen X is what my generation's called, lived in a very unique time in our planet's history. There were computers prior to my generation, but I believe my generation was really the first generation that went to school with computers. They started the Apple II, if I remember correctly. My first computer was the Tandy 1000EX from Radio Shack. And I don't remember, 128K of megabytes, I think. I don't know, it was real small. And now, this isn't mine, but we carry more power, computing power, and knowledge in our cell phones than NASA had in a whole room of computers today. In 2024, we are now approaching another pinnacle move in technology. So, back my second time in college, when was that? Late 90s, early 2000s. That's when the internet was really starting to pop off. 2004, we now have something called AI, artificial intelligence. AI, I'm going to try to keep things simpler, is a computer program that can learn in small essence. And they are doing really on the verge of some really amazing technology. The photo that you see there, does it look real? It is a computer-generated image. And Paul did it in a minute and a half last night. And I'm going to kind of talk through this a little bit. Paul hit me with this idea last night. He created the image and the fox and different things. He's going to go through and show a small video of how he did it. The AI-generated graphics are incredible. The tools that you can use with AI, they're just phenomenal. And I'm going to show you something a little bit here in a minute. So what he just did there, he typed into the AI engine a mountain landscape, and the computer generated it. Now he put the house in the background. And all the AI is doing is creating images based on whatever Paul tells it to do. So he added is that a rock that you just added? Now we're going to have some happy birds. And if you remember the one guy that used to paint the happy trees, he's putting a happy tree in there. and it's done. So I want to talk just a little bit about technology in the world we are currently living on, the world that we're handing off to our children. Nathaniel, Maida, Samuel, all of you guys, you're going to see a dramatic shift in how things happen. As of 2023, there are 4.95 billion internet users. There are 7.33 billion mobile phone users. It is predicted there will be 38.6 billion low-tech connected devices, smartwatches, your thermostat, whatever, in the world by 2025 and 50 billion by 2030. There are 1.35 million tech startups. 93% of U.S. adults use the internet. It is estimated that 90% of the world's data was collected in the last 2 years, and this article was in January 11th of 2023. Our knowledge, well, the one talks about here, Burgmeister Fuller, he spoke of the knowledging doubling curve in 1982. He suggested in 1900, human knowledge doubled approximately every 100 years. By the end of 1945, that rate had come down to every 25 years. In 82, looks quaint, a fellow futurist has suggested that with the arrival of the internet, it is now doubling every 12 hours. The amount of information. Now, I want to share something with you. AI is going to help harness all that information, and it already is. So, scientific knowledge has grown exponentially over the last 200 years, doubling every 9 years, and 1.9 million articles were published in 2012. Every single topic, even single topics, can be daunting. There are about 66,500 articles on the word graphene since 2005. Assuming 2 hours to understand each article, it would take more than 40 years, working 8 hours a day, to read the current graphene literature. This raises the question of how a materials design engine could interact with the global knowledge base. So what is graphene? I had to look it up, never knew what that was. Graphene is one of the strongest substances we currently have. It's 200 times more resistant than steel and 5 times lighter than aluminum. And it's used in just about everything. It's also 40 times stronger than diamonds. So, you can hook and design an AI engine to study this, and you can pull in that 40 years of research into a minute. Go ahead and pull up that AI. This is Google's AI. It's called Bard. Paul, are you ready? Write a press release for the Elkhart Seventh-day Adventist Church on hydrotherapy using hot and cold treatments. Yeah, the more stuff you keep entering into the engine. But go back up for a minute before you add more. And look what it wrote. So the Elkhart Seventh-day Adventist Church has taken a splash into holistic wellness with the installation of a brand new hot and cold hydrotherapy suite. The innovative offering available to the public starting date promises a unique and revitalizing experience that combines the therapeutic benefits of hot and cold water to boost physical and mental well-being. We are thrilled to expand our wellness offerings beyond traditional gym and fitness classes, says blank blank. Lead pastor at Elkhart Seventh-day Adventist Church, hydrotherapy has been used for centuries to improve circulation, reduce pain, promote relaxation. We believe it aligns perfectly with our church mission to nurture the whole body and person, mind, and spirit. We don't have a whirlpool, but we could convert the baptistry here. But the thing is, if we would have gave it more information, it would have given you a more detailed press release. This is just a tool that we can use. And Walter could even use it. But it's a matter of just entering information. Now the next thing I want to do, go back down to the prompt. Write a 5-page essay. I'm sorry, do 5 paragraph. I don't want it to take forever. On hot and cold treatments with references. And there you have a book report. What's that? Your phone has that in it. Google. That is on Google. In your back pocket. You can now, knowledge is at your fingertips. But there's more to it. Someone has to program the algorithm and how they use it. So it is a tool with caution. They are now on the verge. Tesla, there's 3 different companies. There's one in China, Tesla here in America, and then there's another one where their robots are making man-like movements. Yeah, they're working on those. And they integrate the AI interface with the robot. They've done their first, last year they did their first AI-operated fighter jet. It did 17 hours of flight, 12 different missions, all by itself. They're capable of now putting a microprocessor on a cockroach, tapping into its nervous system, letting it live its life, and then they can take it over and tell it where they want it to go. They also now have robotic birds that look like real birds at a distance, but are robots. I don't tell you any of this to create fear. What I am trying to do is educate. Because this stuff is coming into our world. Your cell phones, if you have a smartphone of any, listens to you. No matter what. They are there is a term called data mining. So, and you have a digital footprint in the universe. Whether mine's probably quite large. And if you don't use technology or devices, yours will be small. And I didn't even get into digital currencies. That'll be coming later. But digital currencies are something to be very aware of in the future. They will be part of our lives at some point. Yep, it has. So when I talk about digital currencies, that's crypto. That's not the one to fear. The one to be worried about is when we have a national digital currency. And that they're working on that. There's a couple countries now that have fully instituted it, but they're working on it. But I'll get into that one later on. But all of these things are going to change our lives, and better or worse. They did a study with one of the AIs they created for the medical field. They had it interview 20 different people. And they had a doctor interview those same 20 people. The AI was more empathetic than the real doctor. And was able to diagnose better because of the resources it could pull from. So, what does this mean for us as a Christian? Because we are living in uncharted territory. Prior to 1900, people traveled with horses and buggies. And now our knowledge base, it's not because we're any smarter, we may be actually dumber, but we can collect information and save it, store it, and retrieve it. That's how our generation is overcoming what God did with limiting man's ability to live long. And I haven't even begun to talk about genetics yet and some of the things that are going on out there. They're working with T cells now to create steak without killing animals. Lab-raised meat. Not far away. There is some, I'm not sure yet. The laws are coming. So, these are now the only thing that hasn't allowed the lab-raised meat to go full bore is it still takes more energy to raise lab-raised meat than it still does on the farm. That's its one downfall still. Yeah, currently. There's one thing, though. As this technology grows, as our world changes around us, how do we use this? Now, there's, and I don't want to point at corporations as being evil or bad, because they're there to make money. But they're going to use all these tools, all the information you have out the internet, they are going to use their marketing power to provide services to you. Like when you talk about, well, I need a new towel set or something like that, all of a sudden your Facebook feeds or Instagram feeds, you'll start seeing towels for sale in your feeds. Or you'll say that's a cool car, and all of a sudden you have this Tesla stuff showing up in your. Right. Yeah. And so that's called data mining. They are looking for keywords, and all of this stuff potentially could be used against you at some point. And as we switch to digital currencies, if you remember last year, the truckers in Canada had a big beef with the government. Anybody that was associated with them and they could identify had their bank accounts turned off to break up the protests. During COVID, there was a gymnasium that refused to shut down and keep working, and the governor took all their money. So they couldn't fight it in court. So we're on the verge of seeing all the things we've talked about in the church in the book of Revelation and the not buying and selling, all of that stuff is being set up in our lifetime. And so I'm not telling you to be scared of it. We should be rejoicing because Jesus is coming soon. And so to look at these things and say, yeah, now, this may hurt me in the future, but how can I use it to advance the cause of God now? Because almost 60% of the world is hooked up to the internet, and it'll keep growing. So how do we reach people? Being friendly, for one. Having a good character. Here's one of the darker stories I found on AI. And it lends to the world that we have today, technology is a blessing and a curse because it can isolate people. Because we get into certain chat groups, different things that. So with this AI bot, it's learning, it's programming. You can almost hold a conversation with it. There's an article, it's from Belgium, and I remember seeing this article when it first came out, and I pulled it back up. So there was a guy, he was upset about climate change. And so he was talking to an artificial intelligent chatbot about climate change. And eventually he got so involved with it, he quit. He had a wife and 2 kids and isolated himself from them, and eventually he committed suicide based on what the chat bot was telling him. And so he believed it eventually. And that's not too much far different. When we are hurt, alone, the devil will come in and isolate us and destroy us. He is a destroyer. And so, as a parent of myself, my kids are done with me being a parent, I think. But like Penny here with their kids and Edgar, you have younger children yet, they're going to be deeply involved. This will be part of the school curriculum at some point. And using these tools, and we need to be careful. It's fun, it's just talking to a computer. Well, is it? And I'm not going to go to the complete right in and say that it's the devil, but I'm not saying he couldn't have some influence in what, because if we put ourselves in ground that is questionable, he will definitely take advantage of those. So I just wanted today, this is just a scratch onto the availability of what AI can do in our world today. I'm not even scratching what it could do. I'm just trying to make you aware of what's out there. And there's a lot of positives to this, and there's also some negatives. It's brand new, and they're working on it. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, you carry your phone around with you. You, at some point, could have a personal AI assistant on your phone. Siri and Alexa to the next level. They're talking about it would even be able to arrange a doctor's appointment for you based on how you're feeling. And it's not science fiction to possibly be hooked to the internet on your body. That is something they are working on. So, all those sci-fi movies when I grew up, there was a jack in the back of their head that they'd hook into the internet. That is very, very becoming a reality. So I say these things and I talk about them because I want us to be aware that Jesus is coming soon. And I think when I talk about character, that is the one thing I have struggled with most in my life. Having a strong character and not being swept away by whatever. What builds character? Failing. Getting back up and not failing again. Then running into your next obstacle. Failing. Getting back up. I want to read Psalms 15:1, a psalm of David. Lord, who may abide in your tabernacle? Who may dwell in your holy hill? He who walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart. He who does not backbite with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor does he take up a reproach against his friend, in whose eyes a vile person is despised. but he honors those who fear the Lord. He swears to his own hurt and does not change. He who does not put out his money at usury, nor does he take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved. In our world, reflecting Christ's character is going to become more and more important. Knowing what we believe to be the truth. Because as we showed you with the computer generated, the picture is completely made up. How do we decipher what's real? Especially in a day when we're under trial, stress, and then you have the Antichrist show up with works of wonders and healings. Do we have our relationship with Christ established where we can stand with an unwavering character? This is what I believe. This is what the Scripture says. Amen.